Jaxson Dart is unfazed about the Commanders coaches giving their defense the green light to take shots on him on Hard Knocks. Evan Neal is off injury reserve and he wants to play, but will he? And J.J. McCarthy comes to town. This is your Week 16 Blue Rush preview show from the New York Post Sports. Week 16 is finally here. Oh, my gosh. 3 weeks away and the season is completely done for the Giants. The Vikings pull up to MetLife Stadium on Sunday, and the Giants are trying to snap an 8-game losing skid and get my man Mike Kafka his first dub as interim head coach. Paul Schwartz is here. We're going to break down and talk about all the major storylines going into Sunday. Paul, at 2-12, this is not many storylines to talk about, but we're going to get it done today, right?
Yeah, look, Jaxson Dart, Jaxson Dart, Jaxson Dart. You can always write about Jaxson Dart. Look, the Giants have been in this position before, not often, but like last year, and they didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's really going through the wilderness with, no food, no water, no walking stick, no nothing. They're still in the wilderness, but they think they have a somebody to lead them out of it, perhaps. It's a difference, between the teams, the Raiders, the Jets. There are terrible teams that don't have a quarterback, and there's a terrible team like the Giants who believe they do have a quarterback, and there is a distinction there.
Yeah, people ask me all the time. It's like, what are you and Paul going to talk about now? Now that the Giants are officially out of it, they've lost 8 straight. I'm just like, as long as we don't have to talk about drafting a quarterback, that is kind of a slight or a low win for us. We got the quarterback, and again, like you said, we're going to be talking about Jaxson Dart a lot this show and for the rest of the year. And we'll start off with how earlier in the week, we saw Commanders head coach Dan Quinn and their defensive coordinator for the Commanders on Hard Knocks basically telling their defense to treat Jaxson Dart like a running back and light him up when he breaks the pocket or breaks contain. We're going to play that clip to fresh y'all's memory, and then Paul's going to talk about Jaxson Dart's response.
The last piece, QB, all right? When he's out here, he is a running back first. So this is a good hit by Ellis onto the sideline, all right? He is not looking, all right, to go down and get into the slide. So we got to go out ahead, fellas, all right?
The quarterback is a very competitive dual threat guy, okay? He will try to run the ball like a running back. He will try to run you over. He will try to stiff arm. He doesn't really run out of bounds. He doesn't slide a whole bunch, okay? We can get the ball off of him.
All right, Paul, Jaxson Dart kind of fired back. You asked him the question on Wednesday at his media availability. What did he have to say about Dan Quinn and the Commanders coaches basically telling that defense to light him up because he's a running back when he breaks the pocket?
Well, look, I mean, you've been in these meetings, right, where you're going over the next week's opponents, and you speak very frankly in those meetings. I'm sure if these meetings around the league were televised every week, you'd hear all kinds of, whoa, they're saying, get in his face and he'll throw it up to us. Be physical with him. He doesn't want to be physical. Do a spin move on him. He can't move. His legs are like cement. I mean, you say things. Now, the beauty of Hard Knocks or the curse of Hard Knocks is some of this stuff gets out and this stuff happens. Here's what Jaxson Dart said. He had a couple of really good things. First of all, he said, look, like he said, this is nothing new. He said, look, I mean, Kirby Smart said the exact same thing every time they played against me, and so did Nick Saban. So Kirby Smart is the coach at Georgia, and Nick Saban was the coach at Alabama. So basically, Jaxson Dart is saying, look, every time we played these big-time SEC teams, their coaches said stuff like, we got to hit them, we got to, we can take the ball away from them, all these things. He said, so did every coach I played in college. So this is nothing new. All right, that was interesting. Now, he did say it does fire him up because there's a certain level of respect that comes when they're talking about you, when they're saying, this is what we need to do against him. This is how we have to game plan against him. He said there is a certain level of respect. Everything's a little test for the rookie, right? A game, a bye week, a road game, a bad loss, a good win. Getting talked about on Hard Knocks. How are you going to handle that? Now, we'll see how he handles it in the next game. But as far as dealing with the media, I think he's spot on with a lot of this stuff.
Paul, when he says stuff like that, I absolutely love this kid. I think he is the savior. He's the future of the Giants football. I've told that to him and to his face and all, but I don't think he's getting it, man. As if I was one of his teammates, if I was a Malik Neighbors or one of the receivers, and I understand like where the drop off in play is in terms of production from a Jaxson Dart to a, I mean, Jameis is a good serviceable backup, and then a Russell Wilson. There's a drop off there when it comes to the excitement. So I really don't think he's getting it, because I don't look at that, what those coaches said, as some form of respect. I think it's motivation for the hunt. If this kid's going to break, if he's going to come off the farm and come into the wilderness, let's show him what the wolf pack looks like when we hunt. They're trying. This is a legal bounty they basically put on this kid. When he breaks the containment and he breaks the pocket, go break it legally, go break his body. Go break his soul. Make him cough the ball up. That is what's being said in that room, because when you're talking to defensive guys, you're riling these guys up. Like what did Lawrence Taylor used to say? Like a pack of crazed dogs. You're trying to get these guys riled up to go for the hunt. So that's what they were doing. It's a motivation for the hunt. And when he continues to talk like this is what I'm worried about, Paul. You're basically telling officials to change the way they officiate roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness or hits to the quarterback when you've now become a ball carrier. He's not going to get these borderline calls anymore until he shows that he is willing and able to slide. It's almost kind of like the LeBron James factor. He doesn't get calls because everyone's like, oh, he's so big, he's so physical, we have to officiate him differently. It's the same thing now when you officiate what's an illegal hit on Jaxson Dart and what's not.
I had no issue. It's not like Jaxson Dart, when he spoke to us on Wednesday, commenting on this HBO stuff, didn't say, I'm running the ball the way I want. Come get me. He was not he was shrugging some of this off and addressing some of this without saying, I'm Mr. Macho Man. In the game against the Commanders, did he do anything that you didn't like as far as protecting the ball?
No, he looked good. He looked good. He got down a couple times, I believe, as well.
Go by what he does. What he does is what is important. He didn't. I mean, I think you're kind of mixing, conflating the two. What he said to us about Hard Knocks was not, oh yeah, you think I'm a running back? I'll show you I'm a running back. He's not saying that or doing that. He's learning, and in these games, he is sliding more. He's learning not to take on a guy head on. If you're gonna, maybe sometimes you got to take a hit, maybe roll your shoulder, right? Don't go right into it. Roll your shoulder and kind of, those kind of things. So I think he's learning it all. I don't think he's going to go out there and try to prove to teams now that he's a tough guy. He's got a little bit out of his system, and I just think he's been in the tent 5 times, 1 in the preseason, 4 in the regular season, and our teams look at him a little differently now. Maybe erring on the side of caution. Also Jaxson Dart, sometimes when he goes down, he kind of looks like he's crumpled a little bit, and he's really not. So maybe he has to sell it more, get back up quickly, things like that. Look, and also, if he's hurt, he's hurt, and this is all meant to be to protect the players. You know what I mean? Not, we had Jaxson Dart in the tent last week, but let's let this one go. We don't want to have them miss. You got to legislate it. These spotters, these independent spotters, the way they can. But I don't think Jaxson Dart was being macho with any of this talk. And the way he played the last couple of weeks, he's shown that he's learning.
Paul, I think in last week's loss to the Commanders, the way he showed mettle and moxie to respond in the second half the way that he did, I feel like that was – I've already been like high on the kid and being like, all right, he's the future. But I thought the confidence that he showed was when I'm really all the way in. I am bullish when it comes to Jaxson Dart's stock, because if you look at that second half, the interception wasn't his fault. That's Jalen Hyatt giving up on a route, bad route. He threw a touchdown pass to Darius Slayton right in his hands that was dropped. And then when he actually threw the touchdown ball to Wan'Dale Robinson, you see how he put it up and out there to allow Wan'Dale Robinson to run under that. And he was throwing off of his back foot with pressure. I said, man, this kid is doing all the right things, and I cannot wait until he gets himself his weapons back and gets more weapons around him, because Jaxson Dart is going to set this this city on fire. Paul, I want to get to this next storyline that came out yesterday. Evan Neal, Mike Kafka basically confirmed that he is off injured reserve, but said that he's not going to play. Evan Neal spoke to you guys, the media, about coming back from IR and wanting to play. We're going to play this clip right now, and I need you to break this down, his demeanor, anything and everything, Paul, because I think there's a lot in this clip. Here we go.
Being a football player, it would feel unnatural for anyone in this league not to play. I mean, that's our job. It's my job to play football. And when I got put in a position to where, I couldn't do that, I mean, yeah, it felt different. But obviously that was something that was out of my control. So I just kind of tried to, just go inward, just focus on Evan, just focus on the things that, I can do to continue to keep myself mentally strong, physically strong, and just, ready for whatever's next.
As an athlete, Paul, I feel like there is a lot to break down from that. But you were right there, so kind of break it all down for what Evan said and to what his demeanor was like while saying these things.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Brandon, because look, he hasn't played all year. He's been a healthy scratch all year, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of November, he has a hamstring injury. It's like, how the hell did he get a hamstring injury? He doesn't play, but we were told he was doing training. Because he doesn't play, extra training, extra running, and he pulled a hamstring. So they opened the 3-week window on him. There's only 3 weeks left in the season. So technically, he could return to practice, which he did on Wednesday, and he could start on Sunday. If he's ready to play, some guys need the 3-week window to get better. He's ready. He could play if he wants. And very rarely, right, when you talk to a head coach, certainly an interim like Mike Kafka, when you ask him, what are your plans for him? Usually they say, well, we'll see. He's working hard. Mike Kafka said, he was asked, a lot of times at the end of losing seasons, teams try to get young guys on the field. Let's see what we have. Okay, it's not only about winning, it's about development. Let's get this guy some extra reps. Let's see what he has, right? We've seen it all the time. Kafka was asked about that, and it was actually almost funny if it wasn't kind of sad regarding Evan Neal. Kafka said, that's not really in the thought process. We've got 5 guys that are playing their butt off right now for us, and we're not looking to make any changes. Basically, we got 5 offensive linemen, and Evan Neal ain't one of them right now. So, he won't even be active on game day. So, this whole opening the window, and now he's standing in his locker and he's going to talk. It was like almost throwing him to the wolves, because it's not like, okay, now you're given a chance to play. You're healthy, you're opening the window, and the coach said, you're not playing. I thought his demeanor was the way his demeanor usually is. He's kind of like flatline a little bit, you know what I mean? He hasn't had any success, some marginal success early in his career, but that's about it. 2022, they were a winning operation. He was starting at right tackle. He wasn't great, but there was no reason for me to think at that time he's a bust and he can't play. It's just that, okay, he's going to need some work here, and maybe he can develop into a good player. That has not happened. He will move on. And look, he's a guy who just needs a fresh start, and he will get one. There is some team out there. He'll be healthy. Last I checked, he's not going to not be 6'7" and 330 pounds, right? He's not going to become 6'2" next year. So there are teams out there that had unbelievably good scouting reports on him coming out of that 2022 draft, because there's probably about 20 teams that loved him, right? The Giants weren't the only team that would have taken him at number 7. So those teams are going to look at him and say he's healthy. We think he's a tackle, okay, right tackle, or we think he's a guard, whatever they think he's going to be. They screwed him up. They didn't know how to deal with him. Maybe he wasn't ready. We're going to bring him in. We're going to pay him, vet minimum. He's going to come in for a year, and we're going to see what we've got. And then we'll see what we've got. The odds are he probably doesn't got much, but he will have a chance. He will definitely have a chance, because that's what happened. He's 25 years old, for goodness sakes. Look, I've always thought with Evan Neal, he was, he was a huge prospect going into high school. He went to the IMG Academy in Florida. That's like, that's the Taj Mahal of they're cherry-picked athletes. I think they're treated like college players. He goes to Alabama. He starts right away. He had very little adversity in his career. He was bigger and stronger than almost everybody. I think a lot of NFL teams kind of overlooked some of the footwork and some of maybe it's the technique issues he had because he really didn't. I know people on the Giants who said, we have looked back at all his tape from Alabama. Where did we go wrong? And they don't really see it. They're like, this should have worked out better than it did. It didn't. It's an internal drive in him. Look, he had that terrible remark 2 years ago about his critics and the guys ripping him. Well, they left flipping burgers somewhere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? How dare they criticize me? That was terrible. That was not a smart thing to say, and he apologized for it, and a lot of fans never forgave him for it. So he'll move on. He is. I mean, I think we throw around draft superstar, draft this. Draft bust. We throw that around too often. He is a legitimate draft bust.
Finish this off, though, because J.J. McCarthy is coming into town. J.J. McCarthy versus Jaxson Dart. That should put butts in the seats, right?
Well, I don't know if anything's going to put butts in the seats, but that's the way the season has gone. But look, in 2024, we knew the Giants wanted a quarterback, right? Caleb Williams, they couldn't get. Jaden Daniels, they couldn't get. Drake May, they couldn't get. So now, who could they get? Right? They could get Michael Penix Jr. He went number 8, right? The Giants were at 6. They could have gotten him. They could have gotten J.J. McCarthy at 10. They could have gotten Bo Nix at 12. Okay, so let's look at, sometimes when you judge a front office, you say, who did they pick, or also who did they not pick? I think they look good now for not taking Michael Penix Jr., right? Would you agree with me on that? He's not the answer, certainly compared to Jaxson Dart. I think they look good for not taking J.J. McCarthy. I think you'd agree with me on that. Bo Nix, certainly debatable. He's I think he may have a ceiling on how good he's going to be, but he clearly was ready to play in the NFL, and the Broncos could be in the Super Bowl led by a defense and by Bo Nix playing at a certain level, winning level. So that Bo Nix is certainly debatable there. But the Giants did a lot of work on J.J. McCarthy, a lot. And I kind of think they kind of liked his skill set, but they didn't like his makeup. And I'm not sure they even had him on their draft board. Okay, imagine that. They just did not like his makeup. And we've heard some things since he's been in Minnesota. He's 4-4 as a starter. He missed his whole rookie year with an injury. That's a tough break for him. He had some dreadful games this year, right? The Vikings are a good team, we think, right? With Sam Darnold, they were a 12-win team. Yep. They let Sam Darnold go because of J.J. McCarthy. How about that for a front office and coaching decision, right? You let Darnold go because we don't think you can take us to the promised land, and we got a guy. Well, I don't know if they have a guy, but J.J. McCarthy has played better the last 2 games, so this will be very interesting. I'm sure J.J. McCarthy has heard some of this stuff that the Giants did a lot of work on him, so they know that. Brian Daboll's not here anymore, but Joe Shane and the scouts, they did a lot of work on him, and he was sitting there for them at number 6, and they said, nope, we're taking Malik Neighbors. So we'll see how motivated he is for this game.
Last thing we want is somebody to come up in the MetLife Stadium with revenge on their minds. But I hope the Giants defense can pick them at least twice. Would love to get some sort of dub on Sunday, and would love for it not to snow, Paul. Like, I'm pleased let the forecast not have snow in it. Thank you guys for watching this Week 16 Blue Rush preview show. For Brandon London and Paul Schwartz, we'll see you guys next week.